Okay, I'm Harry Schlegel, the mayor. Mike Thomas, our manager. I'll get it. Mona Costanza is one of the admin people here. Code enforcement is Heather Ortiz. Oh, no.
Not Ortiz.
I know. And a new person. I've met you, I know, but you're new. Jim. Okay, the purpose of this is,
And Jess.
oh, I'm sorry, Jess. New person. I got to remember names. One of the purposes of this is we want to get input from you. We want to address any concerns you have, obviously answer any questions, and give you a little bit of update on what's happening within the borough. So with that said, who has some comments, questions? And you can complain too, but we're not going to make this into an hour-long complaint session, okay? Well, that's not the purpose of this. But if there are any complaints, we'd like to know what they are to be able to address them. And you can also tell us what we're doing right, okay? Because we need that feedback as well. So who's going to go first?
Wait, Jason, did you want to use the other one?
Okay. So my name's Brandy Slatinsky. I grew up in Plum. I moved, I guess now it's 7 years ago, I moved from Ramparts over into Holiday Park. I'm here today because 2 years ago I tried to refinance my house. And Plum I realized during the refinancing I needed a dye test. Plum came out to do the dye test, however, with the pandemic going on, they could not come in my house. Also, they came back, but they couldn't find a camera that day. I guess it was in the shop. So I had called the borough back to ask, hey, can you come back out? They come back out. They don't bring a camera. So weeks go on. I'm waiting for the borough to call me back. No one calls me back. In the meantime, the refinance company is like, what do you want to do? Do you want to refinance or not? You need to make a decision. So I was like, yeah, why would I pass up not refinancing my house? So last year, nothing happened. Borough never called me back. I never followed up with it, but am I going to follow up to say, hey, am I going to pass or fail a dye test on a house that I bought 5 years ago? So last year, the borough calls me and says, hey, we saw that you didn't complete your dye test and we want to come out. I'm like, okay, come out. I paid for it, Well, I come out, and apparently 5 years later, I failed this dye test. At this time, I already refinanced my house. So the estimates come in $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. So I call the refinancing company and say, hey, did you put this in escrow? They say, no. Apparently, it's a refinancing company that does Plum refinancing all the time. So why they didn't put the money in escrow, I don't know, but I didn't know that they should have either because I've never refinanced a house before. So here I am. So last year I call a bunch of plumbers. They come out, give me estimates. I think we're going to work with this plumber. He says, I'll talk to the borough, call you back. No one calls me back. I'm not begging people to come do $6,000 worth of work at my house. So actually it was 30 days ago, I get a letter saying I have 60 days to do this plumbing work at my house for the dye test to pass. So now here I am, 30 days out, calling plumbers, getting plumbers at my house. And so right now, where I am sitting today, I have 30 days to get a dye test done and passed, or I'm gonna get a surcharge on my bill. And I think that it's actually unfair for me because I had done what I needed to do. I think it's on Plum, number one, and also the place that refinanced my house. I don't think I should take this burden of taking $6,000 out of my savings account to do this work.
Okay, first of all, it's not Plum Borough. It's Plum Municipal Authority. Mm-hmm. That is a separate entity. That is a utility company. We have no authority over them. The only thing the borough does is appoint board members. Other than that, they operate totally separately. So what we can do is, when we leave here today, I will go over with you.
Okay.
And we'll go see what we can get, okay?
Yeah.
But you keep saying borough, it says Plum Borough Municipal Authority. Again, it's like, any Alcosan down there in Pittsburgh. It's not associated with the city at all. It's a totally separate entity. So, but we'll go over and we'll take a look and see what we can get going over there.
So I think that's one of the things that that causes a lot of frustration with people in Plum is this confusion about who Plum Borough is. Because we send out tax bills through used to be through Harry's office, but through the tax office. And you get one tax bill, but that tax bill's for Plum Borough and Plum Borough School District. So I get the statement is made to me quite often. I pay $8,000 to the borough. I pay $10,000 to the borough, and it's difficult for me because I want to argue that point because the average taxpayer pays to Plum Borough less than $1,000. It's about $600 a year that you pay in taxes for all your services. The remainder of that money goes to the district, and they're a separate entity with their own budget that we don't control. But I understand that most people get confused about that, and we have the same problem with the authority because we will get phone calls saying, I've been calling the borough, I've been calling the borough, and no one's calling me back. And the staff is, when I get those phone calls, I go around to the staff and I go, has anybody received a phone call from, Mrs. Smith? And we actually have in our phone system, we have the ability to trace every single incoming phone call and outgoing phone call by number. So typically when I get a phone call from someone, if I have that number or an email, if I have that number, I can determine whether or not they called. More often than not, they haven't called here in this building. They've called across the street or the school district or another entity. And we need to do a better job of explaining to people the difference. But just so everybody understands, the Plum Municipal Authority is a separate municipal authority. As the mayor said, those individuals are appointed by council. There are 9 board members that are appointed by council, but they have their own manager, their own staff, their own budget, their own audit. And they are responsible for all your water and sewer, along with your dye testing, tap-in fees, and they obviously do all the billing. Now, we do have the borough garbage bill and stormwater fee on the water bill that you get from the authority. They bill that for us, and we pay them a fee to do that. But I think there's a lot of confusion about that. But what I will tell people when you have those kind of issues is the best thing to do is reach out to me or the mayor, and we can, for lack of a better word, run interference for you. We're happy. We do it all the time. And I do understand that it gets confusing to people. And we understand the process a lot better than most because it's what we do. But I would suggest that when you have problems like that, you feel like you're getting the runaround, that you should reach directly out to me or the mayor, and we will, we'll help you navigate through the problems.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you for explaining that. And I want to say, I understand if you were leaving and moving, but I'm staying in the same house. I'm just refinancing.
Anyone else?
I'm going to talk about the house.
Sorry. Hi, my name's Tom. I live in Renton. Me and my wife bought our house back in 2019, so right before the world ended, which got a really good deal now. The houses are going up, which is great.
Oh, yeah.
I'm on the corner of Oak and Renton, right across from the ball field. Actually, my dining room table, I look right at the ball field. It's one of the reasons we bought the house. We love the view. About a year and a half ago, I'm not 100% sure, they were building the new municipal complex down across from the mine. When they were doing their demo work and all that, they brought all their debris, put it in the field. It's in the parking lot up there. There's pictures of it. It's hideous. It's been over a year and a half. It needs to be removed. People are placing garbage there now. I went over there this morning while I was waiting right next to it for the bus stop for my kid. There's tires there now. There's, coffee cups, the whole 9 yards. Now they're doing all of the pipe work all over, digging up the road. And now their gravel and their pipes and everything's getting stored over there. You know how easy it is for small areas in big towns like this to become garbage dumps. And I just don't want to look at it while I'm eating dinner every night.
Okay. Can you handle that one?
So we didn't specifically take the debris from the construction site over there. By the way, it's still ongoing. We're not done. The project, not with putting more over there. We didn't specifically take the debris over there. What happened is that when we were building the new municipal building, we had incredibly wet soils that we weren't able to compact to be able to put the foundation in for the building. And because of that, we were faced with a $750,000 change order request from the contractor to truck all that material off site and bring in new material. So instead, we came up with the plan of a multifaceted plan where one of the things we were doing was adding hot lime to the mix, so we were able to actually get the moisture out of the soil and compact it, but we couldn't do it with everything. So we had to take soil off site. The contractor's change order for that amount was $250,000 to remove that soil. So that mound that is over there right now, that saved this municipality $250,000. I'm not disputing. I just want to give everybody the backstory here. We put the mound there because so it's ironic, but we put the mound there because the fire company asked us to put something to divide their parking lot from the ball field because they were upset that everybody was going to the ball field and parking in their parking lot, taking up their spaces for their social hall. So for us, it killed two birds with one stone. But while we were pulling that material out, that's the debris that was in that material that we had to pull out of there because we couldn't compact it right. Okay. So that's how it got there. We didn't specifically take that there. But I do understand it needs to go, and it will go, because we've had that problem over the years with a number of different places where we're, storing things for a time period in different locations throughout the borough because we have these, we have a lot of projects that create a lot of debris, and we struggle with finding a location to put those things because, if you don't know, it gets very expensive to actually just landfill all that, to just put it in a dumpster and pay to have it landfilled. So what we try and do is we apply for permits through the Department of Environmental Protection to be able to have our own landfill sites. So once we, in that area behind the fire hall is one of the sites that we're in the process of getting a permit for, that valley behind it. Yeah. So that's why it doesn't make sense to us to truck it all away and then bring it back again. And I apologize. I know it's not that this makes it any better, but it's not just there. We have some at Larry Mills and we have at other places too. But we are aware of it, and I apologize for it. But we will get rid of it. It may not be on your timetable, and again, I'm sorry for that. But we're aware of it. But that's how it got there, and that's the plan to get rid of it. And I wasn't even aware of the fact that people are just starting to dump things there on top of that. But it doesn't surprise me because nothing surprises me anymore with the things that people will dump and throw out because they think it's convenient for them. But we will be addressing that as soon as we can. We're applying for the permit now, and we'll be removing all that. And in fact, the fire companies asked us to reduce the size of that berm there because they think it's too large. So we may be cutting that back a little bit too. So.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, yes.
Who else? So Winnie, did you have something? Let me take that over to Winnie. I know what your question is ahead of time.
Oh, yeah, not even a question, it's a demand. Yeah, I live on Universal Road, and everybody has seen that dump. Oh, it doesn't matter, you can still hear me.
It's on.
No, it's on.
Okay, anyways, has everybody seen
You
the
gotta
house?
talk into it, Winnie.
Has everybody seen the house on Universal Road? The dump? Is everybody aware of it? Well, what are you gonna do about it?
Okay.
Because when I go home, I'm calling the health department, I'm calling animal control, and if something isn't done in the next 30 days, I'm calling KDKA.
Okay.
That's that.
I go past that several times a week when I go to and from the Webb's gym. Okay. Yeah. And the staff can tell you, I come in here and I'm not happy with that place. I say, what are we going to do about it? Now, we've taken them to court. We took them to the magistrate. You got to go through a process. And unfortunately, and it's frustrating for everyone, myself included, is that it takes so long to go through the courts to get something to happen. Now, we took we know, believe me, and Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I get angry going to and from up there, or every time I go up that street. And I come in here and I ask Dave or Heather, what the hell's happening? What are we going to do about that? When's it moving? I'm getting calls, okay, from yourself and from Mrs. Balson. Okay, you got to look at that. I just pass it. The other one, but there's another house that I keep coming down. It's on my list of complaints every week. When I come in, I ask, and that's down at Halton Road. It's the entrances to Plum. It's the entrance to our community. That's right there. And when people come down, what kind of impression do they have? We are working on it. It is going through the courts. You have any updates on that?
How long does it take the court? Yeah, like 60 days.
So-
A couple months ago, I talked to you. We were taking them to Zuko, and nobody showed up, so now it's going downtown, it'll take 30 days. Well, it's been well over 30 days.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
If I could just ask you, because we are streaming this,
I'm sorry.
so if you could
Oh.
put us speak in the microphone.
Yeah,
So
thanks.
So I think so let me clear up another misconception. Just to be blunt, we don't have the authority, no municipality in the state of Pennsylvania has the authority that the residents think we do. We do not have the authority to just walk into your house and say, get out. And I don't think you want that, right? I mean, you don't want any municipality to have that kind of authority. The authority that we had literally, in this case, for properties, because Pennsylvania has very strong personal property rights. And I think that's a good thing. And you don't want the municipality to have the kind of authority to just say, because somebody in one department decides that that building doesn't look right and we want it gone. Now, the downside of that is that the process is incredibly bureaucratic. But we have no authority to do anything that isn't given to us by the state of Pennsylvania, by the legislature. And the authority that's been given to us is to follow the court process. There's no leeway in that. We don't have... It's not anybody's discretion here. It's
Well, then
sitting
why
at
do
this
we
table.
have code enforcement? What's that about? If I don't cut my grass and keep garbage out, I'm sure I'd get fined.
Well, we can cite everybody, which is what we do. This property has been cited, but beyond that, to remove somebody from the house, to take possession of the house and tear it down, it's a multiple-year process. We demolish, I don't know, 5 houses a year on average but it takes us multiple years in some cases to go through the process to get the court, because the courts have to give us the permission to do it. And I understand for the people it's very frustrating but it's not our process that's lengthy, it's the state's process that is lengthy.
Okay.
And we can't deviate from that process. We can't just go up there with a police officer and a public works guy and board the house up and say, get out. We just can't do that.
Okay, so I write to Harrisburg then. I go past you guys and go
can,
to Harrisburg.
But the
'Cause
process,
I will.
and we would help you with that.
Okay. Okay.
We would support you in that.
I
But
mean,
I
they
just
have
want,
those dogs
I think
have
people,
a disabled son. He likes to sit out on the deck. What if them dogs get up there?
we understand. So
It's a
we
nightmare.
don't, I'm going to say in every single case, but I'll tell you 99% of the cases where the residents are coming to us and talking to us about these things, the problem isn't disagreement with the staff
Right.
here, with me, or even with the council or the mayor. The problem is that we have a lot of bureaucratic red tape that we have to go through
Okay.
in order to get these things done. And again, I still would argue as cumbersome as it is and as painful as it is sometimes, I still think it's a good thing, because do we really want our local government to have the kind of authority that can just walk up to your house and go, you know what, I don't like the way that looks, you got to get out.
Yeah,
So
I
that's
understand
why
that.
but the downside of that is that it takes us a long time. But we haven't given up on it. We've not stopped on it.
Okay.
And the residents don't see the progress, because all you see is nothing's physically changed.
Mm-hmm.
And it won't physically change until we've gone through the entire process with the court system and been given the authority to change it. But we do. You'll notice if you watch the agenda, if you watch the council meeting Monday night, we actually are applying for a grant for $150,000 through the Allegheny County Blighted Properties Program
Okay.
to demolish 5 houses again this year. We demolished at least 5 last year, Heather? 4 houses last year. So in the last 10 years, we've probably taken 50 or more houses down.
Well, according
But-
with this house, where are we at in the process?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I can.
Are we anywhere in the process, or? I mean, it went downtown. What happened?
It's down into the courts.
It's just still sitting down there.
So right now, the solicitor. So at some point in the process, the solicitor has to get involved once we get
Okay.
to the courts, and the solicitor's office, Bruce Dyson Associates, is working on that at this time.
Okay.
But once we go through this unfortunately lengthy process, you know, and I can't speak specifically because to demolish the structure, it has to be declared structurally unsound. So we'll have to send an engineer out to do an inspection, and once the engineer determines that it's structurally unsound, and we've gone through that exhaustive process, then we will, like we're doing with 5 houses again this year, we will demolish them and level the lot, and then we lien the property so that the taxpayers don't have to bear the financial burden of doing that.
Okay.
You know, we have, I know the staff gets tired of me coming in and saying, what is the status? And I got 3. And the other one, as you go down Leechburg Road, it sits there at the confluence of 2 streams, Plum Creek, and that has been sitting there. There's a tree down over just across from the storage tank for the municipal authority. If you're going this way before you go underneath the Turnpike Bridge, it's sitting there on your left-hand side.
Okay.
That's another one that's an entrance to Plum. And I came in and says, what are we going to do about that one? And I know from having been the tax collector, taxes haven't been paid on that for years. Right? It's not on this year's list. We don't have the money, as Mike pointed out. So we take down 4 or 5. I push to get that on the list to get taken off. And there's a council member who goes past that every day going to work and asks the same questions. So you're frustrated. I get frustrated because I come in here and say, what is the status? Constantly. And they just told me last week, I'm asking the question again. That frustrates them.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
your
I had
concern
one of
is
them
being
try to break in
addressed.
my
It's
house.
we can't go down there. Now, we can come and tell you to cut your grass or clean up, and we do. That's Heather's job from her department. We do that, and we cite you. But if you don't pay the tickets, the citations, we take you to court.
Right.
We've taken them to court. Yeah, and they don't show up. That immediately goes downtown. Now we're in that quagmire down there.
Okay, but are they piling up? Are you getting citation after citation after citation? I mean, in this case, I'm just worried about this case.
Well, we don't continue to keep writing them. So maybe
I
it
mean,
would be
if
helpful
it builds
to
up
explain.
financially.
Yeah, penalty and interest can, yes.
Yeah.
So, but we typically will never get that because, like in some cases, and in the case the mayor's talking about the other property now, the biggest problem that we have with that property is that we don't know. There's no the owner of record died many years ago. The state, the court says you have to prove to us, and I'm not making this up. You have to prove to us that you notified the owner before you do anything.
We probably voted.
So these are some of these are some of the problems that we experience with this. But what people sort of need to understand about the citation process. So we are authorized by the state, any municipality, right, in Pennsylvania is authorized. So from the city of Philadelphia to Plum Borough, any municipality is authorized by the state to write citations. We can write citations based on the crimes code, based on the vehicle code, so that's like your speeding tickets and running stop signs, and on the UCC and the property maintenance code. Our authority is only to write it. It has to be enforced by a magistrate. So that's why, for people that, if you've ever gotten a speeding ticket, not that I ever have, if you ever gotten a speeding ticket and what's the word I'm looking for? What's that? You appeal it. Thank you.
Yeah.
You go to the magistrate's office, and the magistrate decides what you pay. Right? I mean, many of us have been through this, right? That it's the exact same thing with if I send a citation to you, or if Heather's department sends a citation to you for high grass and weeds. Now you can pay it, you can just look at it and pay it and correct the situation and be on your way. But if you decide, no, I'm fighting this, we have no authority to do anything other than file with the magistrate. And so we file with the magistrate, and you go to the magistrate's office and you say, you know what, Your Honor, I wasn't able to do it. I've been very sick. And the magistrate can do, and I'm going to say this somewhat facetiously, the magistrate can do almost anything they want. They can give you a 90-day extension. They can throw it out. They can uphold it. But even if they uphold it, you can appeal to a Commonwealth Court. I don't know if anybody remembers there was a school building up in Logan's Ferry many years ago, for those of you that have been in Plum for a while. And it was actually it might not have been KDKA, but I think it was definitely one of the major news stations here in Pittsburgh. They did a story on it because some kids were up playing on it and they fell through a roof. I don't know if anybody remembers this.
No.
And we were in the process, and that was the same thing we were hearing from the people in Logan's Ferry. When are you going to do something about this? I want to say 3 years in the court system. The owner of that property, and I'm going to use the phrase, played games with us, filing appeal after appeal after appeal, and then he wouldn't show up at his appeals, and so it would get postponed for another 120 days. And so we get very frustrated with that process too, because trust me, there's nothing, it's not in our interest to have these structures, because it just makes our job that much more difficult. We'd
Right.
love to just get through them quickly and be done with them and move on to, helping people put decks and additions onto their houses and not spend our time with this stuff. But it just isn't the case that we have the kind of authority to do the things that I think people, and they look at us because we're the front line here.
Right.
We're the ones, and you should contact us because it is our job. But we just want people to understand that we don't have the kind of power to take action like most people would think we would. And I think if I didn't do this job, I probably would think the same thing. I only know this because it's what I do.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that the community development staff, the code enforcement officers, and everybody over there is probably more passionate about taking care of these structures than most of you are. They take it very personally. There's one guy back there that's takes it very personally when people, won't make the improvements that they need to. So I think you do have a dedicated staff, and I understand the frustration, but I really think that, and if you have questions, I encourage you to come down, ask to speak with us. We'll be more than happy to explain any of this to you, because it will help you sleep better at night if you understand this better. But we're happy to do it. I think Heather, I can speak for Heather, I know, and everybody in the planning department, any one of us, the assistant manager, Dave Sabasso can't be here, we'll be happy to explain all these things. I have no problem. I would encourage you to come down. I would be happy to spend a half an hour with you talking about these things and explaining it to you.
When he continue to call me.
Oh, I will.
Okay, yeah, I know you will.
I will.
But call,
the way
and
you
I'll
get it
give you an
done.
update, or I will get an update.
Okay.
All right? If it's the same, I'm going to say it's stuck
Just-
downtown.
Okay.
But give me a call, and I will get the answers for you. And if it's moving forward, I'll let you know that as well.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
I would love to go up and knock on the door and say, hey, clean this mess up. First of all, that's a rental house.
Yes, I know.
Secondly, they even advertised on the internet. They're running a business,
what is that?
a commercial business out of a residential area. They don't have a permit for that.
What are they selling? Tires and pallets?
They're recycling tires and whatever other junk. They got pallets over there. I mean, the back is worse than the front. But,
I haven't seen the back.
oh, well, I have. And so has code enforcement. So we're on it.
Okay.
I want to move on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Is there any other questions, comments? Come on, tell us we did something right.
There you go.
Hello, my name is David Bain. I live down in Crystal Springs. I know the mayor personally and Mr. Thomas, I know him. My daughter, Dawn, and her best friend were the first two girls that were allowed to play baseball in Borough on the boys' team. They were very excited about it. They were very good ball players. Their team was called the Cubbies. I remember going down to the field, and the boys were there, and we're talking like 10, 11-year-old kids. And the boys were going, oh, man, we got a girl on our team this year. And as a matter of fact, we got two girls on our team because they wanted to keep the girls together. And they were real down about it. Well, guess what? They won the championship that year. I'm going to proudly say I think Dawn and Denise had a little bit to do with that because they were very good players. Anyhow, long story short, they started a girls' league. They won the championships in the girls' leagues and stuff like that. And one of the coaches, Stacy, and I can't remember her last name, it starts with an F, Farina or something. My daughter called me. She lives in Alabama now, and said she would like to have a reunion back here with all the team members, all the girls. And she was wondering if I could come up here and ask the borough if they could have use of one of the fields to have their reunion. And I told her it probably would depend on a time basis, you know, that it wasn't being used by somebody else or something like that. But that's what she's in, and she caught a hold of Stacy, and Stacy's in tears over this. She wants this to happen so badly. Because my daughter's like going on 50 now, and so it's been a long time. But that's what I came up for. I want to know, is there some kind of a process, you know? I'm a little worried about the big I problem, insurance, you know, what happens with that. I know they can't just walk out on the field and use it. I explained that to her. So, but I was going to bring this up at the regular meeting, borough meeting, but I saw this was happening, and I love coffee and donuts, so I'm a sucker. You got me. And I was just bring that up and see what you think.
Notice how I,
Pass the buck, yeah. You know what, Dave, just have her, I believe you have my contact info, just have her reach out directly to me, and with a rough idea of what it is she's attempting to do. You know, you made the point that you can't just go out on the field and play, but actually, you can. It's public property. I mean, that's what it's there for. Timing's an issue, and we need to figure out what time works. But you know, the fields are insured for that type of recreational play. I mean, that's what we have them for. If it's just, you know, a game, if there's other things that she wants to do, or they want to do, like, you know, have food and do a pavilion or things like that, we just kind of need to know what she's planning to do, or what they're planning to do, and when, and we can help them figure that out. And at the end of the day, I may have to have council authorize something, but if she can just reach out directly to me and give me the details, I'll be happy to help to see if we can make that happen.
Point that out to her, and I appreciate you. And I want to tell all the people in Plum Borough, you're very lucky that you live in Plum Borough, and they're an open organization, an open government. They're broadcasting this live. I go up to Lower Borough. I grew up in Lower Borough, and I go up to their council meetings. And they have cameras up that record the thing. I put an RTK in to get those videos. They won't give them to me. They say I'm not entitled to have them. That is ridiculous. This building and everything belongs to me, we the people. And that's the same way with out in Lower Borough and every place else. Those people that sit up there are there at our quest. They are to take care of that property for us because it belongs to us. And I'll get off of my chair. I just want you all to know that you're very lucky to live in the borough that is so open, that has such an open government. There are so many places you check into them. I'm working with Allegheny Township right now, and they're doing the same thing. They're denying me all kind of stuff that I'm entitled to have. And they look at me and say, well, you don't live here. I do live here. I'm a resident of the United States of America. God gave me my rights. Nobody else gave me the right to carry a gun or to stand up in front of the government and protest. God gave me that. And lots of people died for those rights.
well, you're correct, and I'm going to move it on.
And I'm going to get off my chair.
Okay, I'm going to move it on, but
I appreciate it.
the video, okay, that we take is public record. Jess keeps the minutes of the meetings. That's all public access, public record. All right.
Actually, all of our videos is always uploaded to YouTube. You can see it at any time.
Yeah.
Watch them. Yeah, they're great. Yeah.
Okay, anybody else have anything? Yes, sir. Notice I'm already ready to hand that to him.
My name's Tony Brown. I live in Regency Park. My wife and I moved out here about 4 years ago. Grew up in the east end of the city. So I love it out here. You guys do a great job. Public Works, clearing the streets. The police officers have been great. So little comments there.
Thank you. Thank you.
My only question was really the old Regency Elementary. I know Turnpike Commission bought that. Do you have any idea what they're planning to do with it and a timeline maybe of what they're going to do?
First of all, they bought to do the turnpike.
Just to widen it?
Yes,
Okay.
that's why they bought it, okay. Once they're done with that, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, PennDOT does not want, or the turnpike does not want owned property. They take what they need for the right-of-way, and then they'll return, hopefully, the rest to us. And what they're going to do with it, I don't know. Is that the schools?
they actually, the real estate agent that sold the property is sitting at the end of the table here. So they, well, first of all, what part of the East End are you from?
I actually grew up in Chalfont.
Oh, I grew up in Bloomfield.
Okay.
Did you really? I went to St. Raphael's. So the Turnpike bought the entire property off the school district, and even though they only needed the lower portion of the property along the Turnpike so they could widen it, they didn't want to. They didn't want to go through the hassle of subdividing the property at the time, so they just bought the whole thing. But they are, if they haven't already subdivided, Heather, I can't remember exactly. They're planning on subdividing the property, so they're going to keep that portion of the property that they need for the widening project, and then they intend to sell the remaining portion. I can tell you actually that I was approached by a group of developers from the city that were interested in doing some sort of veterans homes, veterans housing on that property. So we've been working with them on trying to help make that happen. They're trying to put together, so it's some private developers. It's actually Habitat with Humanity's involved in it. And we've been trying to put together a plan to be able to actually move maybe Habitat for Humanity's regional office up there and have a campus up there with a few smaller homes for veterans, for disabled veterans specifically. Yeah. So that's kind of the plan. But technically, the Turnpike could sell that to the property, I believe, is zoned residential right now. It's zoned residential. The Turnpike could sell that to anybody. You know, the real estate agent might make money on it again. Who knows? And it could be subdivided into, you know, I can't think of how many acres is it offhand, but it could be subdivided into 10 or so individual lots again too. So we don't control. I mean, we control through zoning what can be done there, but it will, at this point, it'll have to be some sort of residential development. Yeah. But don't have any more information other than that at this time.
Any interest from the borough making it a park, possibly? I mean, if that's going to be available once they're done with a portion of that. I mean, it's basically being used like that right now by the residents, and it's something that end of the borough is really missing. That would really, you know, you lost the elementary school, which my daughter being able to walk across the street and go to school would be a huge marker for me staying there. But to have a park right there would be just as much, you know, as a big pool.
Yeah, so we've actually thought about that property. We did ask the school district early on if they were willing to give us the property, but obviously the Turnpike needed that portion, which the borough was willing to, you know, deed back to the Turnpike for that project as well. That is something that's a possibility. We are focusing on a number of other parks right now, but as we start working further into our master park plan, that is not on the radar right now for that, but it could be. But again, if that's up to the Turnpike now, we would have to buy from the Turnpike to be able to do that. It's not a bad idea, I agree.
Real quick, could you guys do an introduction for yourselves again? Some folks on Facebook are asking if we could do an introduction that joined late.
Oh, Harry Schlegel, the mayor.
Mike Thomas, I'm the borough manager. And I would like to point out that we have Heather Orovitz, who is our community development director, Jessica Yamnitsky, who is the assistant to the manager and our right to know officer. We have Jim Driano, who is our human resource director. We have Mona Costanza, who is our PR and marketing director. And I also have Mike Whitico over in the corner here. I don't know if the camera can get him, but he's our finance director. And we have John Schultz, who is our Parks and Rec director. So I tried to ask as many staff members that could make it today to attend, so that if anybody had any questions that pertain to them, they would be here. But also so you guys could get to meet them as well. So I encourage you, when we're done with the more formal portion of this, to go up and introduce yourself if you have any specific questions.
Are they ever thinking of replacing Plum Aqua? I mean, my kids are all grown now, but that was a great thing at one time.
My understanding is the organization that had Plum Aqua is folded, and I know that the property is no longer available now. Whether or not there will be another organization that will be able to purchase land and put another pool in, that's really hard to say.
Okay.
Next.
Jason, do we have any questions from the public? None on Facebook. Or comments?
Have we addressed issues? Mike, I'm going to put you on the spot. Would you give an update, because it was brought up about the new Borough building? And that's going to be a showcase for this borough, for this municipality.
Yeah, so I'm happy to do that, actually. So the new Borough building, you know, if you don't know, the new Borough building location is on Old Mine Road here, right down past Ross Hall. Go to the end, you can't miss it. So 20 years ago or so, the borough bought 110 acres down there. About 10 years ago, and the reason for that is the growth in Plum. For those of you that don't know, Plum is a little bit over 30,000 people right now. When this borough building was built, it was less than 8. And back then, too, there was a lot less municipal services that were required by the state to provide to the residents. So about 20 years ago, the borough bought that property. We moved the public works facility from a building that was literally falling down over here, and it actually still is. We're going to have to demolish it if it doesn't fall down first, to a new state-of-the-art facility down the road here. We built a new EMS station for Plum EMS and a new fire station for the Renton Fire Company on that same campus. Just across the street from all of that is the new municipal building. The new municipal building, in addition to having space to accommodate the growth of the staff here in the borough, it also has a full gymnasium for the residents to use. It has a banquet facility. It does have an indoor gun range for the police qualifying. And I know that might seem like a bit of an extreme expense for that, but there's actually a cost savings associated with that. Police officers have to qualify multiple times a year with their weapons. And because we don't have anywhere for them to do that, we have to rent a range. And it all has to be done on overtime. It gets quite expensive. So we built this into the design of the building as well within the police department. It also has a 300-seat amphitheater so that we can house many of our events, our movies in the park, our concerts, and our festivals and events that we do. And if you don't know what those are, I encourage you to look at the Plum magazine and get a copy of our annual schedule, because I think Mona and her team does a fantastic job with these events. And finally, it has I think, probably the only municipality, I'm going to say this, at least certainly in this region, but maybe even in a much wider area, a ice skating rink / splash pad. It is a dual-purpose feature. It's in the summertime, in the warmer weather, it's a splash pad for kids. You know, the spouting fountains and sprinkler things. And then in the wintertime, it's an ice skating rink. And more importantly than that, the fact that I think it's a pretty impressive feature to add to the residents. We've actually been able to do this without adding anything to the cost of the project. We, through some value engineering we did on the amphitheater, we were able to save about $250,000. And through donations and naming rights, we've been able to fund the rest of it. So not only is I think it's a pretty amazing asset that we're building for the community, we're really not paying a whole lot for it to be able to do it. So I'm very proud of that fact. And even though the mayor didn't mention it, so where you're sitting right now is proposed a 65,000 square foot retail space, which includes a grocery store, a gas station, some small shop. No, right here. Right here. Believe it or not, this site is actually about 11 acres. People don't know that. It's very long. And so we are in the process of working with some developers to put together some conceptual plans so that we have, like I said, a small grocery store, gas station, a few standalone restaurants, and then some smaller shops like the ice cream places and bakery, dry cleaner, those kind of things. And we're also looking at trying to get some other government tenants here because they tend to they tend to pay well. They tend to pay the rent. So that's what's going on with the municipal site and with this site here as well. So if anybody has any questions, I'll be. And by the way, the funding of this site, the revenue, we have about $3 million to develop in this site. That's combination of $1 million grant through the state that we're hoping to get, that we've applied for, existing funds that we've budgeted in our capital funds for this, and the value of the land itself. Unfortunately, it does mean some changes to this intersection out here. PennDOT's going to require us to modify the intersection out here at Ross Hollow. But this site will then not just be economic development, it will generate revenue for the tax base, because we're not selling the property. We're partnering with a developer through something called a public-private partnership, where the borough will be able to generate somewhere between $500,000 and $750,000 in revenues annually from the development of this site that will then help us to pay debt service, so we don't have to add additional taxes to fund debt service for our developments. So it's another thing we're kind of proud of. But happy to answer any questions about that as well.
What's the timetable, like next decade?
For which one? So the new building is, we are a little bit of a setback because of the poor soils. We had a big problem with that held us up for about 100 days. But we will be in that building this time next year. The schedule is still kind of in flux because of that soils issue that we had. But the completion date, according to our schedule right now, is early October. So once we're in that building, then we can start raising the buildings here and then start with the development of this property here. So, you know, our plan is to have this facility, this building that we're in right now, not be here this time, in 2023. So that we can start working on the infrastructure for this property as well. So I'd like to say that within the next 5 years or less.
And one of our plans is once that building is finished and we get in there, we're going to do an open house and tours for employees and their families, and then an open house and tours for the community, because it is your building. It's going to be nice. And when Mike mentioned about the gymnasium and the banquet facility, those will be available for rent. There are people that are interested in renting the gym for men's basketball or some type of sports. Did we have somebody that was interested in the banquet?
We've actually had a couple of people.
So, yeah, there'll be rentals. They're not going to be free, but there will be rentals. It'll be reasonable to be able to use those facilities. Again, it's a state-of-the-art facility. I don't believe anybody in Western Pennsylvania is going to have a facility like this. When I was at the tax office, I would sit over there saying, what's wrong with this building? When they built this, I understand they put heavy beams in, they could put a second floor. I said, it got to be cheaper to put a second floor. So I get elected mayor and I come over here. This building is shot. All the infrastructure in this building is shot. Sometimes they swelter, sometimes they freeze. All right, it needs to be done. Because I was against building the building over there until I came over here and got firsthand. And I'm sure other people felt the same way. But that new building was needed.
I think one of the things so when we set out to build a new building, we didn't just want to build a building for borough employees to write citations and do the things that we need to do and issue building permits. We wanted to build a building that was a true community center. And so the entire design of this, and we worked very hard, the entire staff collaborated on this. We worked very hard to make sure that this wasn't just a building for me and the rest of the staff to show up and work at every day. It was a building for you guys as part of the community to be able to utilize as well, which is why we built the amphitheater and the ice rink and the community rooms. So we have, party rooms that are built off the gymnasium, so that if you wanted to rent the gymnasium for your child's birthday party or something like that, there's rooms there with a kitchen that you could, just like you sort of do with the bowling alleys and things. We built a banquet facility there because everybody told us there's nowhere in Plum to have a reception. So we built what we think is a really beautiful banquet facility with an outdoor patio and an outdoor kitchen. Like the mayor said, it really is state of the art. But everything that we did, every decision that we made, every detail, every amenity that we added was expressly for the purpose of making this a true community center. We are partnering with the library and the senior community center to make those spaces available to them so that they can have their programs and events there as well, so that we can bring multiple generations of the community together at the facility at one time. And I think that the overall concept of this municipal center is what we're calling it, not borough building, was so that it would serve as the center of all of our community events, with the exception of Summerfest, which we couldn't, because of size, we couldn't put it there. But all of our new events will be held there as well. So Christmas at Plum Creek and Fall Fest, the movies in the park, everything is going to be held there. And we've designed this whole facility around not just, like I said, the ability to write to issue building permits or write parking tickets, but to hold these events to bring the community together for multiple things, and to make that space available to the rest of the community, the rest of the community organizations for their events as well.
Excuse me, I ride by there every Wednesday and Saturday. Where's the parking lot gonna be for all this?
There's no parking, you have to walk. So the parking's actually, with the exception of where the amphitheater is, the parking's all in front and behind the building. So we've oversized, I forget how many, there's more than 100 parking spaces there. We've oversized the parking for that reason, so that because we know we're gonna have events there. But yeah, I think the architect did an amazing job with it. Like, we don't just have this giant asphalt area of parking. It's dispersed throughout the whole facility, so you don't just have this big blacktop area. I think it looks more aesthetically pleasing that way. But we've at least doubled the required spaces under our zoning ordinance.
And my office is going to have 2 windows, which I don't have any right now. But this place, he's in the small conference room / storage area. We have to add people, but there's no place to put them. This building is just done. Okay, the new facility is going to be, as I said, a showcase. And one other comment I want to make is, we've got some new police officers that come on, and they came on from one of them I've spoke to is come on from the city. They think they died and went to heaven out here. First of all, people wave to them, and I've instructed them to wave back. He was used to getting a single finger wave in the city. He didn't know what to do the first time it happened. His training officer says wave back. The morale is really high, and I've talked with police officers in other communities, and that's because of this community, the attitude Plum has towards their police officers, and the officers have towards the community. I joke about it at the council meetings about how they get people bring in cakes. One gentleman's brought in a birthday cake every month since August of 2020 for all the police officers who were celebrating their birthday that month. People bring them brownies. And my joke is they never call me to come down and have that. All right? It's what the community is doing, and you've heard of other ones, and in the city in particular, in Pittsburgh, defund the police review boards. We're not doing that out here. And the officers know that, and they're getting the respect, and therefore they give the respect back to the community. So I thank everybody for what they do for the police out there. Linda was forced to retire because she turned 75. That is the law. I shouldn't give her age away, but let's put it that way. She reached the maximum. Now, she has been appointed as a senior judge, I understand, and she can be called in to fill in until we get a full-time magistrate here.
Are we getting a full-time someone?
That's the plan from the state, yes. No, that's, they're going to keep us as a separate district, not combine us with Monroeville or Penn Hills, although that was a concern we had as well, all right? So until there's an election and a magistrate is elected for this position, for Plum here, she's going to fill in, and they have other magistrates filling in. I also think she's filling in downtown night court or something like that when they need someone. But judges in Pennsylvania have to retire when they reach that maximum age. Okay.
So we did promise everybody we would limit this to 1 hour, and our IT, by the way, our IT director is here as well. That's Mr. Jason Mugley. He's our IT director. He just informed me that Facebook is about to expire. Well, not the entirety of Facebook, but our Facebook Live is about to expire in like 2 minutes. But we're more than happy to stay as long as you need us to answer questions. The YouTube stream will continue to go on. But I did want to. I mean, we told everybody this was going to be an hour. I'll stay here as long as everybody needs, but I wanted to. But before we at least close out the Facebook thing, one of the things that when we first announced this, we got some negative feedback on Facebook about the timing of this. And so one of the things that I was hoping to throw out to you all is, and when we originally envisioned this event, we didn't envision this as a one-off. We really think this is something that we're going to do periodically. We don't know if it's going to be monthly or quarterly. We're still sort of working it out as well, but we didn't envision doing it at the same time every month or every quarter. You know, we know that people's schedules don't afford them the opportunity to come in the evenings or all the time in the mornings or in the afternoons or even weekdays. So I was going to ask you all to tell me, and maybe even those people that are kind of watching too, you know, what times would work better. We'd like to continue to have something in the day for those people that can make the day, but we can do some evening things, maybe a Saturday morning thing. But no matter what we choose, it's not going to be convenient for everybody. We all know that. But I just didn't know if anybody here has any thoughts on times or things that work better or don't work better. So
Evening?
what time in an evening? Like is that a 5 o'clock thing or a 7 o'clock or?
We will do one. I'm not going to make it every one that time, but we will do one for those people who are working. Their schedule just doesn't permit it. But that was in the plans. Okay. The other thing I want to comment on is I talked about the police, but we have an amazing staff here. Okay. As we get further on, and I was pointing this out, as we get further on into the year, when it comes to get closer to when I'm going to have Public Works down here to address why there's no parking on the street, why you may get a ticket if you park on the street, okay, during snow emergencies. I'm going to have them answer those questions as we go on, and other departments as well. I'll throw Heather and David under the bus, but say code enforcement. We'll get them in here when we have those issues. So thank you all for coming. We do appreciate this. This is a much better turnout than I originally anticipated for the first one. Again, thank you.
If I could, sorry, Mayor, I gave everybody a handout of our Savvy Citizen app. If you haven't signed up for that, sign up for that. That's our event app and emergency notification app. You download the app from your phone. You get the text message when we have events, when there's a chemical spill, or when there's a public emergency service alert. I encourage you guys to sign up for that. And there's no fee for that, by the way. And for anybody that's watching that would like to provide some input on times for the next event or for another event, you can email us at events, events @plumboro.com, and then we'll take that and we'll be posting again on Facebook and advertising the next event. But as the mayor said, I appreciate you all for coming. Thank you so much. Happy to hang out as long as you need, and please help yourself to whatever else is there.
Can I just make a suggestion? I think if you have different borough, departments, maybe if you have it quarterly, advertise the departments that you're having, because then I think you'll get
They were very grateful for the information that we were able to give them to understand, again, some of the things we talked about earlier about like what authority the borough does have and what authority the borough doesn't have. But I think that would be the great next step, quite honestly, but I could be wrong about that. But I think that is something that's out there for the businesses in Plum to be able to come in and meet with our staff, and we can have the entire community development staff here, the inspectors, the code enforcement officers, the planners. We can have everybody here for you to talk, meet, and ask questions. So, I don't know, Mayor, if you think that's a good next step.
Thank you again.